Now.
On 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
Good Monday morning. It is 6:07 on News Talk 105.9 WMAL, where we are making sense of the news. Coming up at 7:05, Joe DeGeneva. 7:35, Trevor Maddich on the latest Commanders win. 8:05, we'll talk to Dr. Betsy Congdon. She's with NASA, and she'll talk about a NASA spacecraft that's just days away from a historically close approach to the sun. At 8:35, Julie Kelly, she'll give us an update on the January 6 cases. I'm Julie Gunlock, sitting in for a vacationing Larry O'Connor alongside my friend Hans von Spakovsky. Good morning, Hans.
Good morning, Julie. And it may be cold, dreary, rainy outside, but it's nice and warm here in the studio.
Is.
And dry.
It is. It is nice. And another nice thing we get to talk about this morning. Oh, my gosh. This is just the happy news of the day. George Stephanopoulos and ABC News will be forced to pay the Trump Library $15 million to settle a defamation suit. They also have to apologize to Trump. Hans, take us back. Can you tell us about this case? What happened? This was during an interview with Nancy Mace that George Stephanopoulos really stepped in it. Tell us about this.
Well, he said on the air, and he kept repeating it, that a judge and jury had found the president guilty of rape in a civil case. That was absolutely not true. And that is the key factor. I mean, look, the reason ABC paid this off was that this was not a gray, you get a lot of lawsuits that are kind of gray in the defamation because you have to make a difference between a fact and an opinion. An opinion, you can't sue somebody for an opinion, for defamation. I mean, You and I can say whatever we want if it's our opinion, even if people think it's not true. But if you assert that something is factually true and it's not, that's when defamation occurs. And that's what happened here with George Stephanopoulos. He was just totally wrong on that.
Yeah, there's something also... A part of this that I think is important is, the suit, the settlement is because George Stephanopoulos, as you say, he said it was a fact that Donald Trump was a convicted rapist, right? But it's also, I think, important to mention that he did this during an interview with Nancy Mace, Representative Nancy Mace, who is a survivor of rape. She's a victim of rape. She has been very open about that. She's talked about her own pain associated with that. And George Stephanopoulos used that information to question why she had endorsed Donald Trump and then repeated this lie over and over again. But he was doing that in order to really shame and embarrass, of course, it didn't work, Nancy Mace. But he said, you've endorsed Donald Trump for president. Judges and two separate juries have found him liable for rape and for defaming the victim of that rape. Stephanopoulos said, I'm reading from a story here, alluding to the legal victory by Trump accuser E. Jean Carroll. And again, he did this over and over again in an attempt to get Mace to, retract her endorsement.
It was cheap,
yeah.
The cheapest, most shameful type of political manipulation. Now, we shouldn't be surprised about this from George. Remember, this is the same guy who once was quoted as saying that Bill Clinton had absolutely no character flaws.
Well, we have that. How nice that you set that up, because we have that cut. This is way back. This is a young Stephanopoulos, a Clinton staffer. Don't forget, he worked. Remember the War Room and the his dealings with Carville, trying to smear the women who had accused Bill Clinton of various sexual assaults and sexual harassment. And he goes on a news program. Let's play cut 6.
Governor Clinton has a character problem, but I take it that your line of
Clinton has no character.
Your line of counterattack is that it's he has not denied that he has engaged in marital infidelity.
Bill Clinton's passed his character test throughout his life and throughout this campaign. And he's shown it through his commitments to real fights. And what he's going to do in this campaign is focus on what's important to the American people, on the jobs and the education. That's what the American people care about.
This is a man, George Stephanopoulos, he disgusts me. He has built a career on smearing women that that were assaulted or harassed by credible accusations by women like Juanita Broderick, Paula Jones, Monica Lewinsky, Kathleen Willey, Jennifer Flowers, and so many more. And George Stephanopoulos set up a war room designed to ruin the lives of those women, to investigate them. He hired private investigators. He smeared them. He got the media to smear them. And then he gives this question to Nancy Mace. It is so obnoxious given his past.
Well, particularly it shows that he doesn't have a conscience when it comes to his political objectives. That's what
Yes.
it is. And remember, this is also the same guy who remember all the stories about the corruption of the Clinton Foundation. Remember, all these foreigners in particular were giving huge donations to them, I guess hoping that they would be able to influence Hillary Clinton. So he's doing news stories about them and didn't admit that, in fact, he had given a $75,000 donation to the Clinton Foundation.
You are the best. You're just setting these out, just throwing these out to me. Cut it. Okay, so yeah. So what Hans is mentioning is this is nothing new for Stephanopoulos. He has cost his bosses and himself not only reputationally but also financially. Back in I think it was 1990. We have it. 2015.
15, right?
Stephanopoulos had to go on air and apologize for not disclosing $75,000 in donations to the Clinton Foundation, as you just mentioned. So let's listen to what he had to say. Cut 8.
Now I want to address some news you may have seen about me. Over the last several years, I've made substantial donations to dozens of charities, including the Clinton Global Foundation. Those donations were a matter of public record, but I should have made additional disclosures on air when we covered the foundation. And I now believe that directing personal donations to that foundation was a mistake. Even though I made them strictly to support work done to stop the spread of AIDS, help children, and protect the environment in poor countries, I should have gone the extra mile to avoid even the appearance of a conflict.
It is so.
Well, wait. The Clinton Foundation did help children. It did help Hillary and Bill's child.
That's right.
with a job and so forth.
That's right.
George Stephanopoulos is an unethical spokesman for the Democratic Party who masquerades as a journalist. And anybody who sees him as anything different, anybody who thinks when they're watching him, he's going to do an objective, nonpartisan story, that's not going to happen.
He's never left campaign mode.
That's exactly right.
He has never left campaign mode. And you might have caught earlier this week Leslie Stahl and Peggy Noonan up on some stage talking about the death of the mainstream media, the death of the corporate media. And they're just so confused. I just don't know how this happened. You want to know how this happened? First of all, Leslie Stahl tisk-tisking Trump when he brought up Hunter Biden's laptop. That's one thing. Leslie Stahl seems totally confused, and yet she's one of the people that has put the reputation of the mainstream media in the toilet. And also George Stephanopoulos, a guy who's never left campaign mode. He has that job just to keep Democrats in power. He's another reason that people don't trust the media.
Well, that's very true, and Leslie Stahl is another reason.
Yeah, exactly. We now need to get straight over to Jamie Whitten in the Hadid Carpet Cleaning Traffic Center.
WMAL.
Making sense of the news.
Live
from the Home Paramount Pest Control Studios.
Home Paramount, the leader in pest control since 1939.
News and weather are brought to you by WEPA.
Why are you supporting someone who's been found liable for rape? Well, actually, what you're doing is defending a man who's been found liable for rape. I don't understand how you can do that. So you're comfortable with Donald Trump being found liable for rape?
Yeah, again, that was George Stephanopoulos, a man who built his career covering up for his own boss, Bill Clinton's sexual abuses, going after Nancy Mace, a rape survivor who was on his show talking about her support for Trump. Well, that little aggressive stunt that George pulled there will now cost him and his network $15 million. And it is the greatest thing because it's going to go to the Trump Presidential Library. I certainly hope that somewhere in that library they have a little display, maybe a video of George making that mistake and explaining that is why this wing of the library exists.
Wait, you didn't talk about the other benefit. Apparently, he's canceled his X account.
That's right. That's right. The day that the decision came out,
Right.
he nuked his
Right.
X account.
But look, one thing, you mentioned the forum, I guess, that Leslie Stahl and Peggy Noonan had.
Yeah, can we really quickly, before you go on,
Yeah.
can we listen to that? That's cut 9.
Yeah.
I despair. Seriously, I worry greatly, and I think there are other institutions that have been suffering. And you're right not to blame Donald Trump 100%, obviously, started many years before. But we're at a point where if the President of the United States is going to say legacy media is dead, well, I guess Musk said that. Legacy media is dead.
And he wants it dead. He wants other media.
But it is kind of, sort of, hobbling right now. And I don't know how it recovers.
I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
Well, Leslie Stahl, she wants to know why. Well, she should look at herself in the mirror. It's the bias, the cover-ups, the proven partisanship of Leslie Stahl and other major news reporters. I mean, people see it all the time. I've seen it personally in my dealings with the media in this town for 20 years. You know what they're really complaining about is that there are now alternate sources of news.
Yes, their power is gone. Yes.
Their power is gone. When you and I were growing up, there were 3 networks.
That's right.
We couldn't get news anywhere else, and now I have all these other sources I can go to check and see whether what Leslie Stahl is saying is wrong, or maybe they're covering up a story that the New York Post came up with.
That's right. And this last election is proof that the alternative media is working, that people are tuning in to these podcasts, whether it's Megyn Kelly or Joe Rogan. I mean, it is powerful, the attractiveness of alternative media. People do not trust legacy media. And, it's interesting, someone on Twitter, Gunther Eagleman, he put together this sort of list of lies. It is remarkable. Russia collusion, the Inflation Reduction Act, reducing inflation. Trump called neo-Nazis fine people. Jesse Smollett, Hunter Biden's laptop, the Covington kids, Governor Whitmer's kidnapping plot, the Kavanaugh rape allegation. Trump said drinking bleach to fight COVID. Russia bombed their own pipeline. Trump P-tape. I mean, it goes on. This list goes on and on. I think there's like 40 things there of lies that, frankly, we have endured. And I mean, I don't think I really mentioned much about COVID, which that was just years of lies, from the masking to the vaccine. I mean, people are tired of this. That is why. Or the latest, right? That the IG of DOJ just said, guess what? The FBI actually did have people in the protest on January 6th, which everybody in the mainstream media said, that just wasn't true, and that's just a lie. And now the Inspector General says, actually, it was true. And we will talk to Julie Kelly about that later today at 8:35, so keep it here for that. We've got much more. It is 6:21. Well, in more insane news, the Scripps National Spelling Bee is now allowing an alternative spelling of the word women for their spelling bee, Hans. You can now either say the typical spelling, the proper spelling of woman, or you can put a Y in there. I guess for gender nonconformity. I'm not really sure why.
It's
insane.
It's DEI and woke culture invading the spelling the National Spelling Bee. You know, this wokeism, the DEI, I grew up in the South, and folks who grew up in the South know about cockroaches and how common they are. DEI and wokeism, it's the equivalent of cultural cockroaches. It's everywhere.
It is.
It's infesting everything, all of our institutions, and now it's in the National Spelling.
Well, I mean, I understand if Columbia University or Berkeley want to do this silly stuff. I mean, I understand it's still outrageous and ridiculous. But if some corporation is going to do this, this is a spelling bee that's literally allowing the misspelling of a word.
That's right.
In their contest
for political reasons. For political reasons. That's why they're allowing a misspelling.
A spokesperson for Scripps explained on Fox News Digital that all words Scripps uses in its program are pulled from Merriam-Webster Unabridged Dictionary, which has alternate spelling for women. So they sort of blame the dictionary. All of the words used in the Scripps National Spelling Bee program are pulled from our official dictionary, Merriam-Webster Unabridged Dictionary. During competition, our policy is to accept any correct spelling listed in our official dictionary that isn't marked archaic or obsolete. The alternative spelling women with a Y is therefore included in our study list because it is listed as an alternative spelling for women, EN, in Merriam-Webster.
Well, that if that's true, that tells you there's a problem at that dictionary company. And hey, you know how that there's a Patriots History of the U.S., great alternative book? Sounds like we need to start an alternative dictionary that is real English.
Yes, I nominate you to start working on that.
Okay.
Hans?
All right, I'll start that.
All right. Next up, we're going to talk about food workers who say they're not going to serve Trump and his administration officials. We'll get to that at 6:30.
WMAL FM, Woodbridge, Washington. A Cumulus media station.
Making sense of the news.
News Talk 105.9.
News now. Now.
On 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
Good Monday morning. It is 6:37 on O'Connor and Company. Thanks for letting us be a part of your morning. Coming up at 7:05, Joe DeGeneva. At 7:35, Trevor Mattich on the Commander's latest win. 8:05, Dr. Betsy Cogden. She's with NASA, and she's going to talk about a NASA spacecraft that's just days away from a historically close approach to the sun. And maybe we'll ask her about those drones. And at 8:35, Julie Kelly, she'll give us an update on the January 6th cases. I'm Julie Gunlock, sitting in for the vacationing Larry O'Connor alongside my friend Hans von Spakovsky. Hans, good morning.
Yeah, good morning to you, Julie, on a, like I said, very cold, dreary day. Everybody needs to be listening to Jamie on traffic because the roads were pretty bad when I drove
little slick
here.
Coming in. Both of us there a little bit of hydroplaning there, so be careful. Yes, and Jamie will keep us updated on that. So, Hans, we are both, conservatives. We live in Washington. Not always easy, right? I mean, you sort of feel like, especially the suburbs of sort of the Northern Virginia area and, Montgomery County, very liberal areas.
Right.
And during the first Trump administration, there were cases of Sarah Huckabee Sanders being kicked out of a restaurant. Kellyanne Conway was harassed at a restaurant. There have been many cases. Those are just a few, but there have been many cases of people either with the Trump administration or associated with Trump, or Ted Cruz. Okay, he's senator of Texas. He was also harassed at a restaurant many years ago.
And people on the left, particularly politicians, saying, "Oh yeah," like Maxine Waters saying, "You should be doing that. We shouldn't allow anybody who we disagree with politically to live a normal life."
Yeah. So apparently there's a story out. It actually broke last week. Some food workers in Washington, D.C., these are restaurant servers, said they are pledging to refuse service and cause other inconveniences for members of the incoming Trump administration when they dine out over the next 4 years. We're kind of past this. I think a lot of people are tired of this. And I do even think that there's some people on the left who are like, can we move on? Can we not play these games anymore? But this apparently is something that some servers in Washington want to do, want to make it hard for people to eat out.
It's such uncivil inconsiderate behavior. Now, listen, I read that story. I was really furious about it. But then I read a story subsequent to that one of the servers who actually had given her name, the place that she works, a prominent restaurant in D.C., had fired her and had issued an abject. It was actually a real apology. You know how sometimes we see these fake apologies?
No, this was real.
This was a real apology from this restaurant saying that she had no authority whatsoever to say anything like that, and that they welcomed everybody who came to their place. That's the kind of thing we should be seeing.
Yeah, so that story, again, going back to what we were hearing last week, bartenders and servers told this article, this writer, that they would shun certain officials. They would say things like, there is power in making it known that you are not comfortable with a situation. And it doesn't necessarily have to be this big dramatic show, just a little bit of resistance here and there, she said. One server said she vowed to refuse service to Trump officials. One also said, I don't feel comfortable serving them. And again, one anonymous host at a fine dining restaurant said she planned to look up every Trump administration figure online so she could know who they are and give them a bad table if they came in. Nice folks, okay? But as you mentioned, someone got fired for publicly stating this.
Right.
This is a story, I think this is Fox News, is reporting a Washington, D.C. area restaurant server has been fired after she spoke out, similarly to the others who were saying they would not serve Trump administration officials. This person said, I personally would refuse to serve any person in office who I know of as being a sex trafficker or trying to deport millions of people. This was a woman named Susanna Van Roy, a server at Beauchart's Saloon on Capitol Hill. Her remarks were part of a report about whether or not it would, again, local resistance to certain Trump officials. Now, as Hans mentioned, the saloon then apologized and fired her. They said that they fired her for violating their zero tolerance policy on on discrimination. And again, they issued this really nice apology saying that this was unacceptable.
Yeah, like I said, no, it was a real apology, unlike so many fake apologies we hear often where people are saying, well, we're sorry you were upset over what I said, as opposed to really apologizing. And again, I don't care which political party you affiliate or support with. All of us should be on the same page that you want to disagree politically, fine, do that in the public arena. But in everyday life, when we're going to restaurants, to concerts, that kind of behavior it's inappropriate.
I want to just read their apology. This is Beauchart's Saloon. It's on Capitol Hill. Have you been there?
I have not. I have to admit.
And it's BEUCHERT, Beauchart's. I'm not sure I'm saying that correctly, but Beauchart's Saloon. They said recent comments made by a member of our staff who had no authority to speak on behalf of our entire restaurant have been, quite rightly, flagged as inappropriate, hostile, intolerant, and unacceptable. This staff member does not speak for us as a restaurant. After the inauguration in January, we will begin serving our fourth administration as a neighborhood restaurant on Capitol Hill, open to all and welcoming to all. We have always been a safe space for all. Everyone, especially anyone who feels prejudged or misunderstood, will always find friendly service and a sympathetic ear at Beauchart's Saloon. So this seems like a pretty great place. As you said, an authentic and a real apology. So we should encourage people to go there.
Yeah, we should. And in fact, I may have to check them out.
Yeah. We've got more coming up. It's 6. So on Friday, the First Lady hosted the annual Marine Corps Reserve Toys for Tots campaign at the White House. That's nice.
It is, especially if folks who haven't been there. The White House at Christmas is just beautiful inside.
Although Jill has had some questionable decorations on.
Well, that is true.
I mean, it does look a drug den in there, but or you have to be on drugs to enjoy it because she's sort of made it look a little bit like a circus. However, I'm going to try to stay positive here. So she's hosting this annual Marine Corps Reserve Toys for Tots campaign, and she comes out to a podium. There's a bunch of kids gathered around, and she yells, well, should we listen to the cut? Yeah.
Hello. How are you? Hi. Happy holidays. Hi. Happy Christmas. Yes.
That kid is all of us. That kid is all of us.
That is exactly right. And he's got a future in Washington.
And that kid is now in jail, actually. He's been dragged off to jail because, no, I'm kidding, obviously. I'm kidding. But no, that kid, she's sitting there and she comes out and she says, Happy Holidays. The kid screams, Happy Christmas. Very British. Happy Christmas. Very British, by the way. Happy Christmas. And she sort of awkwardly goes, oh, yes.
Yeah, right.
Merry Christmas.
So. No, that wonderful boy expressed the feelings all of us have at the attempts to downplay Christmas. It's like people should be offended if you say Merry Christmas.
Yes.
Instead of Happy Holidays.
I will tell you, though, I feel like, I've been doing some Christmas shopping. And I feel like I'm being wished Merry Christmas a little bit more. Do you feel that way? Yes. There's been such a reaction against stores and other places that are trying to de-emphasize Christmas. By the way, all of us who still send out Christmas cards. Yes. I deliberately never buy any boxes of cards from anybody that say Happy Holidays. Oh, me too. I only get the ones that say Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas. Yeah, and you like to have some sort of religious, like a dove or something like that shows, you're recognizing the meaning behind the holiday. Right. Is important. Well, let this be a lesson to Jill. People like to say Merry Christmas. Also, just really quickly, for the first time ever, there is a creche on the Capitol grounds. Did you know about that? I saw that. In fact, I tend to drive by there almost every day on my way to my office. So it's actually beautiful. I would say people who are in Washington, late at night, when there's no traffic, what's a good thing to do is drive down and drive by the Capitol and go see the Christmas tree. Yes. The nativity scene, et cetera, that they have there. It's really pretty. If you have family in town, I agree, we've got to get to a break, but, if you have family in town, particularly if they're a little bit older or elderly, a car sort of tour, a driving tour of D.C. late at night, like you said, is so fun. It is. Get a thermos of hot cocoa. Yeah. It's a whole thing. It's 6:52.
Hi. Happy Christmas. Happy Christmas.